Now, I'm about to talk to a very distinguished Russian, Dr. Yuri Felshtinsky, who is the co-author with the late Alexander Litvinenko of a book called Blowing Up Russia. He will have been reading the WikiLeaks with a great deal of interest because, of course, much of the information that was released by WikiLeaks dealt with the Americans' attitude to and view of the current government in Russia, where Vladimir Putin is the Prime Minister and Medvedev is the President, although that will probably change quite soon. Dr. Yuri Felshtinsky, I hope, is on the line in the United States. Dr. Yuri,
yes, I am.
Tell me, what did you think of what the American embassy traffic from Moscow said about your country?
Well, I think what we are getting from WikiLeaks is not tremendously new. We knew all these facts. We just have another confirmation that that's precisely what's going on in Russia.
Well, surely
there is a difference.
Doctor, the confirmation is that that's what the American ambassador thinks is happening in Russia. Why don't you put some flesh on those bones for us? Just exactly in what way is it happening?
You see, that's precisely the point. When we were writing this with Alexander Litvinenko, people were saying that, look, you know, a person defected from the FSB, what could you expect from somebody who was working for KGB for 20 years? He is probably too critical. He is probably not accurate. The criticism is probably too strong. Now we see that criticism was not strong at all, that basically this was an understanding of the American diplomacy as well and American government officials as well, but they were not too brave enough to go public with this information. So that's the problem with Russia, unfortunately, that the state is, very rich, that oil supply is very important, and people do not want to damage relations with Russia. And that's why, unfortunately, the real opinion about Russia we are getting from leaks which comes through internet.
Yes, Russia is, of course, a country with many problems of organized crime, for example, and imperfections, flaws in its democracy. But it was much worse under the old drunken crook Boris Yeltsin, wasn't it?
Well, that's true, but at least Yeltsin was trying to build a new Russia. Putin was not trying to build a new Russia. And you may look at today's news or yesterday's news. The way Russia obtained, for example, championship for soccer was not a clean game at all. It was a very dirty game.
What evidence have you got for that?
Well, a lot of evidence.
Well, give us a little.
Of course. There is a lot of information and proof and documents saying that KGB from the very long time, from old Soviet times, was heavily involved in sport activity. I published a book which is available in English, The KGB Plays Chess, explaining how Russians were heavily involved. The KGB was heavily involved in chess matches. The Soviet government was trying to ensure that the Soviet citizen would always win the championship. And a lot of foreign officials and foreign diplomats were unfortunately used and hired by KGB, including, for example, Mr. Samaranch, who was the president of the International Olympic Committee. He was recruited by KGB when he was the Spanish ambassador in Moscow. Kampomanes, who was the major figure in chess, International Chess Organization, was recruited by KGB as well. So, for example, when Russia was trying to obtain the rights for Olympic Winter Games of 2014, Putin personally went to meet Mr. Samaranch, who talked to him for like 2 hours, and as a result of this conversation, Russia finally got permission from the Olympic Committee to have Winter Olympic Committee in a summer resort in Russia, in Sochi, which is a laughing joke in Russia. I mean,
So
people laugh when
well, none of that, of course, not one word of all that deals with the allegation you made against FIFA yesterday. But let me just recap what you said. You said that the head of the Olympic Federation is a KGB operative recruited by the KGB.
The former head, Mr. Samaranch, who died recently.
You're saying
before he died.
You're saying that he was a KGB agent.
He was a recruited KGB agent. He was recruited by the KGB when he was the Spanish ambassador in Moscow, and he agreed to work for KGB. In exchange for this, the KGB helped him to become the president of the International Olympic Committee. This information was published by me in a book which is published in the United States in English. It's also published in German. It's also published in Russian in Russia, surprisingly enough. And when Mr. Samaranch, before he died recently, was approached by various journalists from France, from Germany, with the questions concerning this particular material, he refused to comment. But he even never said that this was not true, because all of us know that this is true. The same is, unfortunately, about Mr. Kampamanis, who died recently as well.
Yes, you're carefully libeling only the dead. I can get that picture.
Well, no. The book was published before they died. The book was published before they died. Some months before they died. They died later. Once again, the book was published before. It was available in English and German and Russian before they died.
Okay.
They never complained.
Let's return to the subject of Russia. Basically, you're saying that your country is a nest of thieves and criminals, and therefore, presumably, we shouldn't be giving them the World Cup or anything else.
Well, you see, the Russia, of course, the Russia consists of population, and 99% of those people are honest, hard-working people.
Who vote for
Putin.
Putin.
We're not talking about them.
What about?
Right.
But they vote for Putin.
Well, they didn't really vote for Putin. The way elections were organized doesn't indicate that they vote for Putin. They didn't vote for Medvedev the same way again. The whole world, unfortunately, consists of many countries which are not democratic countries, which nevertheless, for reasons which are known to us, to Western democracies, hold elections. So you have those questionable elections in almost every country in the world. And nevertheless, we do know and we see the difference between Western democracy and countries which are not democratic and which have elections. Russia has elections. Nevertheless, we know that Mr. Medvedev was selected to be the president. He was selected by Putin. We do know that Mr. Putin was selected to be the president. He was selected by Yeltsin and by a group of people around Yeltsin. This is very far from democracy, and that's probably not the major problem. Again, there are some countries which are not democratic. Russia is not democratic. This is not a secret. But unfortunately, this is a country where the Russian Secret Service took control over political and economic life of the country, took control over Russia's economy. Russia, once again, is very rich country. We know this quite well. We are getting oil and gas and metals, etc. from Russia. Russia is very rich. So the pie for which they are fighting is a huge deal. So the Russian Secret Service is controlling the country. Basically, this is not a secret. And those people, they organize their lives the way they usually, organize it. Through bribes, through illegal activities. This is not secret as well.
Now, what about the oligarchs, Doctor? That's the one word, the old word we haven't heard from, because, of course, these oligarchs were given Russia's wealth by your old friend Yeltsin, the drunken crook and thief, whom you described as trying to bring about to trying to bring about a new Russia.
Right. One of those oligarchs you have very close in London, Mr. Abramovich, who bought Chelsea. Now, he bought Chelsea using, of course, the money which were earned through an oil company which he received for free from the Russian government under the condition that in return he is financing presidential campaigns once in 4 years. And that's what he's doing. And now when Russia is selected for a soccer championship in 2018, Putin yesterday, Mr. Putin made a statement that, well, I expect Mr. Abramovich to give some money for our economy to deal with the expenses.
Quite right, too. It's about time Mr. Abramovich shelled out from his billions for the people of Russia. Dr. Yuri Felshtinsky, thank you very much indeed, co-author of Blowing Up Russia and many other books, it would appear, from that. 08717 223344 if you've got a point of view on what you've just heard.